Welcome to BodyTalk's Mind Lessons with Indu. Are you ready to hear real life stories from around the world how BodyTalk system has helped heal trauma and brought vitality back to life? If yes, stay tuned and find out if this is what you have been waiting for. Hello, everyone, to the February podcast of Body Talks Mind Lessons. My guest today will share multi-dimensional uses of body talk, but with a focus on pain, trauma, and stress. The other part that I am really interested in hearing from her is actually how she is bringing body talk to health education and working with at-risk communities. Welcome, Elza.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. I think we're gonna have a joyride. All right, so let's start with where in the world are you located?
I am located in Crestone, Colorado, which is a rural community of southern Colorado, nestled in the Sangre de Cristo mountain range.
Wow, that is on my list of travel destinations.
Yes, it's quite a
Colorado.
beautiful place.
Yeah, I put it on the list last year also, but it didn't happen. So let's see if it happens this year or not. All right, Elza, uh, must be cold where you are. I'm in
Yeah,
rainy California. Has been a stormy January and February here. Okay, so
yeah,
let's take,
definitely.
yeah, it's the weather everywhere has been a bit challenging.
Yeah, I'm looking at about a foot of snow, which is really nice because we are a high alpine desert and we need the moisture. So it's actually the most amount of snow I've seen since I moved here, which is really exciting.
Ah, nice, nice. And we had a very dry um, October to December, so I'm welcoming rain. We need it. Okay, so taking a step back into the you growing up in your school days, and what were your interests? Where did life start for you?
So it's kind of interesting question as my family has always had a strong background in medical care. My father was a my grandfather, excuse me, was a pioneer in dentistry, and my mom actually worked and apprenticed with him from the time she was 14 until he stopped practicing it. I think he was about 82 when he stopped practicing. So my mom was always running the front of his practice. She was, in people's mouths and working alongside of him. And I remember, just kind of watching the art of practice, watching how she would run things. And I used to spend a lot of time in his back office going through his case notes and looking at all the photographs he would take of people's teeth moving and changing and how their jaw structures would change, and kind of playing around in his lab because he did all his own making of his own appliances and things that would go in people's mouths. So as a young girl, I always had this connection to, watching that process of clinical healthcare. And then my aunts were all nurses, and we lived with one of my aunts who was a pediatric nurse. And I remember her coming home from her shifts and talking about her experience being with the young people. So I had this kind of beginning of being steeped in medical care. And then on the other side of the family, I like to say my uncles were a bunch of Christian mystics who were philosophers and artists, and activists, and had kind of a different relationship to looking at consciousness in the human form, and definitely had this steeping of spirituality and artistry and philosophy on the other side of my family.
Wow, the best of both worlds, right? So, which one attracted you most, or were you always thinking how you were going to blend them? Or maybe at that point in life, who knows where it was going to go, right?
Well, it's kind of interesting because at age 7, I had a major injury. I was bucked off a horse and I ended up dislocating my pubic bone and had what we call an upslip downslip. And my mom took me to the doctors and they did x-rays. And I remember them placing a heart over my pelvis, and it was, to block the radiation from my reproductive system. And I remember asking, why do I need to have this on me and what's going on? And it just didn't feel right. I was like, well, if this could hurt me, then why would you even be doing this to me? And so I kind of was imprinted with that right away. And it was interesting because those doctors wanted to put me in a full leg cast and keep my body, restricted into resetting that pubic bone and keep my one leg completely casted. My dad, on the other side, said, no, let's look at this from a different angle, and ended up taking me to a chiropractor. And it was interesting because the chiropractor was able to actually adjust my pelvis. We found out this was my first experience in kinesiology, that I had a calcium deficiency. And so, having the pelvis adjusted, getting on some nutrient-based calcium, it actually corrected the issue at some level. And I was able to deal with a secondary issue that I was having addressed, where I was dealing with growth pains that were really, really significantly bad. They would wake me up in the middle of the night, and taking the calcium completely eliminated those growth pains. So we did go the, complementary or alternative chiropractic route versus the put you in the leg cast route. And I kept seeing that chiropractor over the years, and I just, had this perspective of looking at things could be a different way. And being able to choose that path, or having, an option to look at it from a different perspective, really started me in the path of my healing work. And then additionally, I was dealing with very significant, this is actually what got me into BodyTalk, was dealing with significant sinus problems. And so I had been going to the doctor and getting antibiotics, and dealing with, this process of, taking the antibiotics, things clearing up, and then the sinus infections coming back. Getting literally 4 to 5 sinus infections a year. My mother had actually had multiple surgeries on her sinuses, and there was this part of my brain saying, oh, well, I guess my mom has had these surgeries and she's always had sinus problems, so this is just something that I'm going to have to deal with the rest of my life. And then there was this other part of my brain that was like, wait a minute, if I had a different way of addressing this early childhood injury, maybe there's something else out there. And I remember having a sinus infection coming on and having this thought to go see another one of my aunts, who was actually on my dad's side of the family, and thinking, she was a Waldorf teacher. She used to give us homeopathy. She used to give us salves, and, she had a very different approach. So maybe she has some way of helping me. And it was actually just around age 15 that I went to see her and had my first BodyTalk session. And I never developed that sinus infection, and I have not had a sinus infection since then, 25 years later. So that was pretty significant for me, kind of choosing, to go a different route, going that kind of, listening to this other aspect of my own mind, and saying, I don't want to take these drugs anymore. I keep having to go back. If I keep down this pathway, they're just going to want to give me surgery. So what else is possible? And then from there, this, 25-year journey in BodyTalk really opened up and changed the framework of my whole way of thinking and relating to my own body, as well as, in the work that I do.
Wow. quite a story. Actually, there were two things that really resonated with me. Of course, the whole story as well. The first one, when you were saying on one side you have pelvic injury, and on the other side you have sinus issues. And as we know in Body Talk, these are two reflections because our skeletal system, the way it's connected, sometimes restrictions in the pelvic area can reflect in the sinus cavity and the other way around, right? And then
Oh,
these,
yes.
yes, we know that, right? And
I know all
secondly,
about this.
yes, I know we're gonna talk more about it. And the second thing, when you said that how programmed we get, in our belief systems, that my mother had it and I am going to have it. At some point, I'm not going to be able to escape it. And then your words, you said, oh, maybe there is another way, right? So
Mhm,
that's when Body Talk shows up. So
mhm.
look at those three things coming together, that how many possibilities it opens up just by saying, maybe there is another way. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be like this for everyone all the time, right?
Right, yeah, just being able to, open up to the world of potential of what is really possible and, over these 25 years being engaged with Body Talk as a client, starting out, in my teens, and then, starting to practice very short after there, just watching and witnessing that potential unfold in myself as well as in so many people, and recognizing that that ongoing process of transformation is really about the framework of where we can believe things are possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you got your session around age 15. So when did you decide that you were actually going to practice Body Talk?
Well, my aunt, funny enough, told me that right away. She said, "Wow, Elza, you give me better feedback than any of my clients. You're really tuned in to what's going on. You're really aware of how you can feel these subtle and big shifts and how these connections are happening." She's like, "You should learn this work." And I thought to myself, no, I'm like into art. And I was at that point publishing a magazine, and I was kind of running around, my independence. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, um, something kind of just out of left field hit my brain and said, "Hey, maybe you should think about learning that." I had right away started, reading and studying about Body Talk because I was interested and curious when I was receiving sessions, and I was doing some of, like the courtesies and the self application for myself, but I never thought that I would be doing it professionally as a practitioner. But I was definitely intrigued by it, so it had, come across my consciousness. Well, maybe you should go a little further into your study with this. And it was interesting because I looked up on the website and there happened to be a class coming to Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in My dad had showed up at my house. I had just grabbed my mail. I had gotten a tax return, and my dad showed up and said, "Hey, I got a bonus at work and I wanted to give you a little extra cash." I had been out on my own, living on my own since I was 17. And so, he showed up and said, "Here's some cash." And it was exactly the amount that I needed to register for the Body Talk Fundamentals class in Boulder. So I took that as a sign. I took a little leap of faith. I ended up registering for the class and immediately started using the work. Having had received the sessions for a couple years prior to having Body Talk being really, still young in my mind, still in school. I was 18 at the time, and I just took to it immediately. I started working with it within the second day of the class, getting results, and I never looked back and have pretty much been doing Body Talk every day ever since.
I wonder if you are the youngest Body Talk practitioner. Do you know that? I
I think,
I
well, Mina Campos, who is in Miami, who's a good dear friend of mine that I have trained with and worked with and taught with over the years. I think she was 16 or 17 when she first started practicing. It was around the same time that we first started, but she's, I think, a year or two younger than me. So, yeah, we definitely, have a bit of the early young people. But then I also have my daughter who took her first body talk training when she was 12 or 13, and she's about to be 16, and I think
Wow.
she's taken fundamentals. Like, she's helped me coordinate, and she's taken fundamentals multiple times. And she definitely does body talk sessions on her friends when she feels like it. And yeah, so she might have both of us beat, but she's not trying to be about it in a professional level. But yeah, the young kids, teaching the young kids is it's been a passion of mine, and getting them involved.
Wow, that's impressive. You gave me goosebumps. I never thought that people gravitated towards body talk that early. This is really, really interesting.
It was
Wow.
interesting for me too, because, teenage years can be difficult. I was dealing with a host of other issues, painful periods, the sinus issues. I was also came from a family of alcoholics, so dealing with deciding that I wanted to be an alcoholic early in my early formative years. Also dealing with depression. So all of these things were, I feel like body talk was kind of like a choice point for me and allowed me to really do transformative, powerful work for myself quickly, early in my life, so that I could kind of get on with things and not,
Mm-hmm.
be plagued by bad decisions that, by the time I'm 30 or 40, I decided, oh, wow, I better go start looking at myself. So it was kind of cool to have that in my path. And then now to be able to teach young people and to give them, especially with Body Talk Access, these tools where they can kind of have self-reflection, they can feel shifts happening based on, the techniques and noticing when their body goes into stress responses. So having that kind of information as early as possible, I think, is such a great, great way to really, bolster our health equity and support community health, and support young people in having empowerment and the ability to shift and heal themselves.
Right. So, since you were younger, uh, did you attract more of the teenage clients, or it was all age groups?
Well, when I first started practicing, I was working in community health. I was actually working with a nonprofit organization that I've been with for the last 25 years. And we, at that point, were working, we had funding to do work around sexual violence prevention. Women who were working in the sex industry, and also working with women who were actively smoking crack cocaine. So here I was, a teenager, working with this specific type of population that was, everywhere from, 20-year-olds to 50-year-olds, and, women who had a robust, lifelong experiences with challenges from mental health to substance misuse to, layers of abuse and trauma, doing body talk, and seeing really profound, amazing, beautiful things starting to unfold in these women's life through not only, having the body talk sessions, but the group work and the resources that we were offering and supporting them with, in the nonprofit. So I kind of got thrown to the wolves, I would say, in my beginning, first decade of body talk, just really, being able to work with a population that not necessarily would have access to this type of medicine, but because the way that the nonprofit organization I work for, their approach to looking at community health education and access, um, yeah, we were able to literally just start working with all kinds of different people. And that really taught me a lot about the process of how disease manifests our psyche, the process of our social constructs, how diseases don't just happen in a vacuum, how there's layers and layers that, are involved with how we kind of get ourselves into these complex situations that then become a reflection of of our health outcomes. So, yeah. And then as I started to work in private practice, I was working a lot with women, middle-aged women. I did a lot of work around women, like CEO burnout kind of stuff. And um, I juxtaposed that with, as my martial arts training, working with a lot of men and male athletes that were, doing peak performance kind of work. So I've kind of across the board worked with a lot of different populations, but definitely sprinkled in there young people, and children as well.
Yeah, definitely a multidimensional experience. And you were fortunate that you worked with a nonprofit that was open to Body Talk as a healthcare system, right? Because a lot of times, some places also have the challenge that how do you weave Body Talk in general health?
Yeah, it was really such a blessing and honor to be able to bring that work. And also, they sponsored us in training more. We got to go to a lot of conferences and network and spread more information. And then we've trained so many people in Body Talk Access, a lot of people in Body Talk Fundamentals. Yeah, the organization is still really committed to offering services. We recently just were granted the opportunity to work with crime survivors and trauma
Mm-hmm.
survivors using Body Talk and energy medicine and other kind of culturally relevant practices and behavioral health components. But yeah, that nonprofit has really been ahead of the curve in supporting people and doing things that are pragmatic and that actually work, and being kind of
Mm-hmm.
renegade and willing
Yeah.
to essentially, break the mold.
So, what is the name of this nonprofit? I think we should share with our audience here.
Yeah, Sisters of Color United for Education, based out of Denver. They have the oldest, what they call Promotora program, which trains promoters of health in their communities. And they have expanded to doing not only direct services and referrals and case management, they've been working on housing policy. Like I said, we're doing the work with the trauma survivors and victimization, friends that have, suffered in that realm. And yeah, they've been around for probably 40 years, I want to say, quite a
Mm.
long time, and continuing to do really great work.
So, they are based in Colorado. Are there other chapters in other states, or it's just local?
They've trained promotoras all the way into the southern Colorado area where I actually now reside. They have promotoras in Guatemala. I know there's other places where they've trained individuals, but yeah, the organization is foundationally based out of Denver.
I see. Okay. Yeah, they're doing great work and it's effective. That's amazing. And for 40 years. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, are there some unique testimonials you got while you were working with people? That's something you want to share?
For me, I was thinking about that question, and, it's like I've seen so many things shift so quickly, profound things happen, especially in emergency situations or dealing with, injuries or, bleeding just immediately stopping. I've seen Body Talk bring somebody back to life after being gunned down. I've seen Body Talk stop strokes from people falling out in the middle of a grocery store, or stop bleeding. I mean, I've had all these really interesting experiences just randomly, like being there when somebody is being injured, and being able to support them. But aside from that, really, to me, when I think about client successes, it's the ability to witness self-empowerment to shift our patterns. So this capacity that Body Talk has to provide people a new framework or scaffolding to have the efficacy to begin to make changes, not only in their mindset, like we talked about, but in their daily patterns. So, being able to really identify the key areas of our lives, like our relationships, our eating habits, our movement habits, our breath practices, the way that we, believe about things, watching people be able to discover how they essentially hold themselves back or how they essentially contribute to their distortions or their diseases, and then watching that process of self empowerment unfold, and people making behavior change. Being able to recognize that the mark of effective therapy is actually behavior change, and then watching people unfold into lives of healthy empowerment from there. I also was thinking a lot about, for that question, my process in working with families. I've been so blessed over the years to have many, like one family member will come in, and then the mom comes in, and then the sister comes in, and then the aunt is coming and having sessions. And so that process of watching families uproot and transform collectively, like very deeply held genetic factors, very deeply held familial patterns that, things from thyroid issues to breast cancers to mental health issues to substance abuse to violence that happens within families. When everyone kind of can come and get on board and shift their piece of it, the potential of, how that shifts for their future generations, how their children come in with new consciousness, what is possible to change and acknowledge amongst, grandmothers and mothers and daughters. That kind of work is just always so humbling and always such a beautiful, beautiful experience to just sit back and watch what is really possible.
Yes, Elza. That wording that you were using, the empowerment tool. It's funny that we were having this public talk a couple of days ago, and one of the comparison that I brought in is that Western medicine looks at the symptoms, right? Which is a good start, right? I mean, only if you have a pain, you're gonna go to the doctor and try to figure it out. But then when they give you a pill or they give you some solution, you just stop there. In Body Talk, what happens is we say, okay, you have a symptom, but there are probably 10 other things that happened before that symptom came in. So we're not just going to stop at the symptom. We're going to go deeper and discover what is underneath this iceberg. So, and as a part of that discovery, we are empowering people to take a second look at their lifestyle and so many other things, how emotionally they are looking at things. So it becomes a tool of reflection and empowerment. And if you are ready and you become a little bit brave to take action, right, it can transform things to another level. So you become part of the solution rather than
Right.
part of the problem. So that's
Right.
how Body Talk becomes a way of life. And once you fall in love with this, right, there is no looking back. You just go on, and most of the time up and up, right?
Right. And I love that, you pointing that out, because I like to think of, and this is something that I focus on when I'm training new practitioners, is that Body Talk is actually really effective, what I call lifestyle medicine. And
Mm.
if we can help guide our clients to reflect upon the information that is coming up in sessions, the shifts that are happening, it is as if they are opening to some sort of new potential within their experience of having a Body Talk session, but it is their daily habits, their daily movements, their daily breath, their daily mindset, their diet, the different things that they interact with through work, through relationship, through purpose, through sense of expression and creativity that start to build new pathways for those new states of health to emerge. And we can very quickly support people to identify these key areas within themselves, these core aspects where their unique gifts reside, as well as where their deficits or difficulties reside. And then what we can help support clients to do is master those aspects of themselves and then recognize how throughout their life there's always going to be some sort of re-emerging opportunity or next level for them to essentially address some of those core aspects of themselves. And through that process of transformation and facing those kind of day-to-day behaviors and tuning in and being in reflection and being present with what's coming up, Body Talk is just such a great framework for guiding people through, how to be in their bodies and how to live and master everything that is wonderfully great about them, and some of those things that are, weaknesses and deficits that need to be transformed into strengths and greatnesses.
Yes, well said. So now, asking a different question, when did you start thinking about becoming an instructor from the practitioner journey?
So I first started teaching Body Talk Access. I guess that was 16 years ago when my daughter was little.
Mm-hmm.
And that naturally progressed me into the process of teaching Body Talk fundamentals. Really, the impetus had a lot to do with the community health work I was doing and wanting to be able to teach specifically, in that realm, and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be able to support individuals that are less likely to even know about this kind of work or this kind of training, to be able to have access to it. So I always like to offer typically scholarships to people who are really hungry for the information and might not have access to it, as kind of part of the ethics of the framework of spreading the information and the connection to it. But yeah, it was kind of just a natural progression. I did practice for many, 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 many years before I did train to be an instructor, which
Mm-hmm.
I felt has been really valuable for me as an instructor, because I have a lot of clinical experience in working with a lot of different populations. I also have other healthcare certifications and modalities that I work with. So I have been able to weave Body Talk into structural integration, into my classical Chinese medicine studies, into my studies of functional movement and rehabilitation. And those kind of components for me have helped inspire me to, because I started out with Body Talk. Body Talk was the foundation, still is the foundation. I start every session with Body Talk. I frame everything in Body Talk, and then I can use these other modalities and these experiences to really help, support my clients, help support my students to, move through their own journey and process with how they're going to practice or how they're going to share this medicine with themselves, their family, and their communities, their practices, in a pretty diverse way. So, yeah, I took a lot of experience into teaching, which has been really fun.
Nice, nice. So you teach access, fundamentals. Is there any other courses you're teaching as well?
Within Body Talk, I teach Body Talk Access and Body Talk Fundamentals, which has been just such a blessing and really fun.
All right, that is great. Okay, so now talking a little bit about the type of work you're doing, and I understand now that you're doing a lot of community work. How about uh, are you working with certain niche of issues that are coming to you, or it's just all over the place?
Yeah, so my private practice, because I combine Body Talk with structural integration and
Mm-hmm.
movement. And I have a school, a martial arts school as well. So I'm a branch chief of Inshin Karate Crestone. And so we do a lot of functional movement, a lot of performance work with people. And so I'm naturally, I think people are attracted to that component. But I would say my niche that I work with is chronic pain and stress related disorders, as well as trauma. And so, individually, being able to use Body Talk as a framework with combined therapy for structural work and physical releases and physical energetic releases, as well as movement rehab, has been really, really powerful. I think it's definitely a niche in itself. There are, great practitioners in the Body Talk system that are working along with some of that combined therapeutic approach. But it's, when you look at the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of people out there doing it. So we're kind of, outliers and specialists in our realm. So we attract the people that, need that kind of work. And then working with the nonprofit organization, specifically looking at working with trauma, working with the nervous system in trauma, working with lifestyle and trauma, working with, supporting people who have dealt with different degrees and layers of trauma, which most of us have, whether it doesn't have to be some grand profound difficult trauma, but even old injuries that we've adapted and never fully healed from. Those are traumas, right? But when we look at other things like victimization and trauma and the multiple nuances that come together for someone's life experience to have to go through those type of experiences, that's something that Body Talk is so effective at addressing in a gentle, quick, and very profound way that we're really blessed that we can offer these trainings in Body Talk Access, the services of Body Talk and other energy medicine modalities to individuals that typically, like, you go to therapy and it's not getting at the physical components. It's not getting at the metabolic or biological components that are wound into trauma. And so I think we're at a really unique place as Body Talk practitioners. And even now, where the concepts of trauma and triggers have been a little bit more mainstream, that mind body connection, the approach of
Mm-hmm.
therapists really looking for other ways to address some of these things. As Body Talk practitioners who've been working in this system for a long time, we're really light years ahead of a lot of the traditional approaches to trauma. So that approach is really exciting to me. I think that our organization and the system of Body Talk has just such a great professional development track for therapists to be able to more effectively work with their clients and wrap their skills into something like Body Talk that can really, really support people. So that's a very exciting place that I am focusing on for the future, is continuing with the community health work and around this trauma and victimization to really help demystify and introduce the simplicity and the power of something like Body Talk and even Body Talk Access into professional organizations and working with therapists that really want to up their game in their ability to be effective clinically.
Yeah, what you are pointing out is a major advantage of Body Talk to be in complement with whatever else you know or you want to practice. Because a lot of times when people look at one type of modality, and here Body Talk is not even a modality, it's a whole system, but usually it is, if you are following this, then you should only follow this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here we say, no problem at all. Whatever you are following, that is fine. But in addition, this can work with whatever else you are doing at present. So it works so beautifully with other things that people want to try and can just, walk alongside and just work the magic together. It's not you or me, you versus me. It is always you and me.
Mhm.
We can do it all together, right?
Right, and that piece really rings true that body talk helps improve the effectiveness of any other therapy. Whether that be in the context of somebody who is, going to different practitioners to, work with a complex issue, or it be in the context of a practitioner who has different modalities and skills that they want to bring into one kind of framework. And I think what really sets it apart is the fact that we train practitioners to work based on priority. We follow the innate intelligence of the body through prioritizing with that dynamic, unique situation that each person has. And just like each one of us has our own fingerprint, we all have our own pathway to healing that needs to be designed by that beautiful innate intelligence that we, introduce to people, beginning with body talk access and the stimulation of the innate intelligence, and then beginning as a practitioner teaching people to get out of the ego and the mind of saying like, oh, I'm a doctor of chiropractic, so I'm going to look at it all based on, the articulations of the joints, or oh, I'm a naturopath, so we're only going to look at, are they detoxed, and is their
Hmm.
liver working, or I'm a massage therapist, so I can only work with the muscles. Whereas it's like, well, you actually have the ability to wind that into a system like body talk that will help people be much more effective with how they apply that kind of push and pull game that therapy really, um, instigates within our clients, because we're, asking them to look at things. And what's beautiful is body talk, they're always ready to look at it because they're like, oh, it's exactly what I was thinking about. How'd you know?
Yes.
Well, I didn't, but I sat back and I'm humble enough to listen, and I've been trained to get out of my own training and to listen and follow the way that your body would like me to use my training to support you, versus like the ego saying like, oh, I know how to do all of this and I fixed all these people and I'm the best at XYZ. It's a very humbling and beautiful, beautiful approach to medicine that is just always so fascinating to hear from students, how they, grapple with, mastering being in that place of humble, ethical, honorable witnessing, and, just the beautiful things that are possible when people can, get out of the driver's seat and let the innate healing happen as it's intended to.
Yes, and you remind me that about 5 years ago, I decided I wanted to make some more contribution to my home country, India, and there was only one practitioner. And went there with Homera, she's from South Africa, and three of us were just wondering where to start and expand body talk in India. And you won't believe it. We were so surprised that what we attracted, the audience was doctors,
Wow.
because they felt that yes, we practice Western medicine, but a lot of times we really don't know what the client needs, what the patient needs. So Body Talk gives them such a great starting point to start looking at a certain direction, a certain way, and not just give people medicine, but in addition, also give them direction. Like you were saying, the lifestyle direction, where they should be looking in at the stress in their life or whatever else comes up. So, it was just so interesting that we talk about healthcare practitioners and even doctors could use it and complement their Western medicine practice.
Right. Well, and if they can actually sit with the system and, find that relaxed humility and get good at navigating how to facilitate a body talk session, anyone who's had a body talk session or facilitates sessions know that a whole lifetime of change can happen in just a few moments. And so even where there's restrictions of time, where we can only spend 10 or 15 minutes with a patient, having something as effective as listening to the innate intelligence and pinpointing exactly where the body is ready to shift and balance, could revolutionize the way we look at these, approaches to healthcare that have, kind of pigeonholed doctors into only having a little bit of time with, with their patients. And then the other piece is how great we are poised as instructors and as a system to fill in the gaps regarding telemedicine, because BodyTalk, as we know, works at a distance,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be quickly effective, in just a few minutes. And, the fact that we can't maybe always all the time be together in person, and this, dawn of virtual everything that has kind of been this interesting silver lining or a progression of since COVID. We're really going to be seeing a lot of therapists and doctors needing to expand their skill sets and needing to expand their ability to serve patients and actually deal with the things that are presented to them. So what a great solution that we have here, that we've all been working with for so many years. And I just think it's such an exciting time as Body Talk practitioners and instructors to help meet the needs of what's transforming right now with healthcare.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with remote sessions, so effective. Don't even have to go anywhere, and you can tune into anybody in the world, of course, with their permission, but it just works beautifully in person as well as from a distance. So that is a definite advantage we have as body talk practitioners.
Indeed, indeed.
So,
Yeah, it's
Elza,
interesting. Go ahead.
so I think we can continue for another hour since we're enjoying it so much. But let's let's kind of wrap it up, if you don't mind, with your contact information, and also what is your big message to the world. And hopefully I didn't miss anything in particular that you wanted to share.
No, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great discussion, and I'm so passionate about this work. I like a lot of times tell people, like, I wouldn't know what to do with myself without Body Talk, considering it's been part of who I am for more than half of my life. So I'm, over that mark, that I'm definitely in there. And yeah, so I appreciate this opportunity. If listeners want to get a hold of me, they can reach out to me through my website, is bodytalkyourbrain.com. And I would say my message to people, what comes up for me is I hear a song in my mind. It's one of my favorite songs, Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. So that's my message, is to people to go listen to that song. But in that song, he says, I am starting with the man in the mirror. I am asking him to change his ways. No message has been any clearer. If you want to make a change, take a look at yourself, then make that change. And I feel like Body Talk is such a beautiful way for us to look into our own mirrors, to take accountability, to have self-empowerment, to have self-efficacy, and become the greatness that we are destined and designed to be. It's just such a great facilitator, and it really is up to us. So starting with that man in the mirror and recognizing that no matter how difficult it is to make a change, no matter how scary it is to make a change, one step towards a new potential could change everything from the past. And when we can look deep within ourselves, we are then capable of accountability and responsibility. And Body Talk helps us do that so beautifully and so simply, and really opens the pathways to make it easy and joyful and fun.
All right, Elsa, that was beautiful, beautiful. I feel that flow of energy. Already pretty energized. Thank you very much
Yay!
for your time, and thank you to all the listeners. We'll be back with another episode, and until then, You take care of yourself and look at the mirror and decide what is it that you
Mm.
want to change today. And if you have any questions, Indu at bodytalksmindlessons.com. Until then, take care. Bye bye, Elsa.
Thank you so much, Indu. Happy tapping, everyone.
Yes, bye bye.
Bye.